Welcome to the College Football Bros, the podcast that's back, folks. And now, here are your hosts, Michael, Ryan, and Trey Newman.
Welcome to the College Football Bros podcast. I am Michael Newman, and I'm joined by the brother who moves his body like a cyclone.
Okay, yeah, that's me, Ryan Newman.
And by the other brother, who is one Wildcat.
That would be me, Trey Newman.
Was that acceptable to you, Ryan?
It was a little bit better than your ACC one since that was a little repetitive, but
all right.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Well, today we're going to get into our Big 12 preview. But first, be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at CFB Bros. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Support us on Patreon, patreon.com/collegefootballbros. And check out our sponsor, Ryan.
Yeah, our sponsor, MyBookie. MyBookie AG, if you go online. So winning season is back here at MyBookie. It means doubling your first security deposit. So you go up, you put in 1,000, they'll give you 1,000 of extra to play with. So just sign up now and take advantage of that offer. They have a super contest. What is that super contest? It's simple. All you have to do is just pick 5 like NFL games against the spread each week, and you have a chance to win like up to $100,000 in guaranteed cash prizes. So might as well take an opportunity at that. But the best part is, MyBookie has thousands of bets to choose from all over the NFL slate, NBA playoffs. You get live betting, championship futures, pretty much every play that you can think of is waiting at MyBookie. So just make your pick now, win big, collect the extra cash. Use our promo code CF Bros. So that's capitals and just CF Bros. And double your first deposit now. It's a no-brainer. So your winning season begins now at mybookie.ag.
All right.
And I got to get to the other one part here. They have
we got more.
Well, yeah, they have like a thing here that's just coming up for the Kansas City. So just kind of like in honor of the Chiefs for winning the Super Bowl. And I guess it's really just a thank you from mybookie.ag. You can bet on the Chiefs coming up against the Houston Texans on September 10th or on Thursday, September 10th. And they'll be plus 54. You get them plus 54.
It's a big point spread.
Big point spread. Okay. They're actually favorite 10, but they're going to give you plus 54. So it's kind of just like a thank you. Only 6 games in NFL history have been decided by more points than that. And safe to say, Patrick Mahomes and company aren't going to lose by 54 points. So you could bet up to $50 on that. So just do it. Why not?
Free money.
Free money right there. It's not going to happen. There's no way they're going to lose by 55. It would never happen. So take advantage of that. It's only at mybookie.ag. So that's pretty cool.
Great. Okay. Let's get into our first segment here, and it is Call Me Crazy. So go ahead and start us off, Trey.
You got it. Call me crazy. It's a great graphic we've got there too, by the way.
Yes, if you're watching on YouTube. Nice little emoji.
Yes. Call me crazy, but the Big 12 has the best quarterbacks of any conference.
So I don't think you're crazy here. I'm actually going to agree. We ranked the quarterbacks in every conference, every Power 5 conference a couple months ago. And I think at the time we were saying it's pretty solid because outside of Kansas, and I guess now outside of TCU, now that Max Duggan is maybe out for them, every team has a good quarterback. I remember Skylar Thompson from Kansas State was 9th on our list at the time.
Yeah.
He's pretty good. So the fact that he ended up 9th on our list, I think shows the strength of the. And when you look at the other conferences, so Big 10 is pretty weak in the lower half. ACC, same with them. Pac-12 just kind of weak overall. And as far as the SEC, you could argue that Brock Purdy from Iowa State, Sam Ehlinger at Texas, and even Spencer Rattler at Oklahoma, each of those guys would be the best quarterback in the SEC if Rattler works out.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see about that. Okay. I am personally just think the SEC, I would probably give the edge to them just a little bit. I know Big 12 has some good ones, no doubt, and they put up some good numbers. But I gotta say, it's Big 12 defenses are not as good overall as SEC defenses. It's just a fact. All right, it's a little bit easier to have some success. So if you have those guys that you just mentioned from the Big 12 going into SEC territory with some SEC games, defenses, I think those numbers would be a little different. Take Spencer Sanders, for instance. People are giving him kind of credit for being pretty good, but he had 16 touchdown passes, 11 picks, ton of fumbles. He really was average, and now you put him up against better defenses. I don't know. And the SEC, you got good quarterbacks. Kyle Trask is good. He proved himself really quickly last year that he's a really good quarterback. Kellen Mond, I think he's an underrated quarterback. You got KJ Costello just came in. I think whoever starts for Bama, I think Mac Jones, was awesome at the end of last year. So there's a lot of good corners. I know I'm missing some quality guys probably, but I like the SEC a little bit better overall.
Okay. Next one. Call me crazy, but I think Iowa State will beat Oklahoma in week 2 of Big 12 play. And I'll make my case here. So they get them at home, and it's early in the seasons. OU's new receivers and even Spencer Rattler maybe still kind of working out the kinks. And we'll get to this later, but OU has some important players missing potentially the first 5 games of the season. So right. I think Iowa State can take them down.
Yeah, no, I don't think you're crazy here. I mean, just look at the past couple of years. They beat them a couple of years ago, or was that like 3 years ago now? I think maybe because they beat them in Norman, and then last year they lost in Norman but just because of the 2-point conversion attempt, right? So they're right there neck and neck. I don't remember the game in Ames a couple of years ago, but who knows? I can't remember that. But anyways, I don't think you're crazy for saying that. Iowa State's got it. This is maybe going to be their best team ever coming back. So if I would expect the spread to be in single digits, and that's more than capable of happening. So yeah, you're not crazy.
Yeah, you're not crazy for that. I'm not saying they're going to win like you, but I mean, if you're going to beat OU, I feel like it would be the good time to do it is early in the year when Rattler's getting his feet wet, kind of the defense is maybe maturing. It's going to take some time for the whole team to gel since it's a lot of new pieces this year. So I don't think you're that crazy, and I could totally see it happening.
Okay.
Yep. All right, let's move on to mine here. Call me crazy, but I think OU will have the best defense in the Big 12. If you just think about what happened the last time they were out, you might think that is crazy. Like LSU it was just JV versus varsity there. It was crazy. It was just horrible. But that was just a microcosm. You can't just look at that. Or it wasn't a microcosm. You just can't look at that.
Aberration.
Aberration is the word I was looking for. Thank you. It was totally an aberration. LSU was amazing that year, but Oklahoma's defense was solid last year. They took a big jump under Alex Grinch. I don't think maybe a lot of people maybe appreciated how big of a jump that they did take. They were number 1 in rush defense in the conference. So I knew they have a couple guys either going to be suspended early on, maybe like Ronnie Perkins. And then they have just a guy just opting out, Jalen Redmond, who had like 6.5 sacks last year. But they still have 7 like other starters coming back, 7 or 8. So they got enough pieces coming back, especially in that secondary. They're filled with experience. So I think that this defense could be the best one in the conference.
You're crazy, but you're not insane. You talked about the improvement, and yes, they did, but they were improving from like basically rock bottom. No, but they improved. There's no, you can't deny that. And I will give them, I do think they're going to improve a little bit this year. To say they'll be the best in the Big 12 might be a little leap, but they might be the most talented, but still a little raw. Last year they started so many underclassmen that you would think would take the next step. That's and then I didn't even hear if you mentioned bringing in the number 1 JUCO defensive tackle, Perry and Winfrey. Yeah. So that's a key piece. Obviously that can only help. But to me, there's still some other defenses in the Big 12 that I think I like a hair better at this point, at least that are maybe a little more proven, I guess I'll say, is TCU, Iowa State, maybe even Texas with some better injury luck. So I'm not ready to say or anoint OU as the best D.
Yeah, I'm with Trey. I'm going to call you crazy. I think OU is maybe 3rd or 4th, somewhere in that range. They've got the upside to be maybe 2nd, but I like Iowa State as the best defense in the conference. Last year they were 25th in SP plus defense compared to OU's 48th, and Iowa State returns just as many starters as Oklahoma. So I think they're going to be really good on that side of the ball. And I do worry a little bit about, like you said, Ronnie Perkins out for about the first half of the year if that suspension holds up, and Jalen Redmond. I mean, that's two big pieces from the defensive line that are not there when they're playing Iowa State, when they're playing Texas. So yeah, that's why you're crazy. Okay, that was fun.
Absolutely.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Trey.
No, so I do we want to start to get into the tiers and the teams here?
Let's do it.
I guess, no surprise here. The Bros' number one team in the Big 12 is the Oklahoma Sooners. Their over-under is set at 8.5, and I'm just going to kind of take this and run. And
yeah, you just stole the introduction. From me.
I'm just going to steal it. I just wanted to
introduce OU, Trey.
Oh yeah, well, I just wanted to get to the team previews really bad here. So
let's get this show on the road.
Oh, we were just talking about Oklahoma's defense. So I'll touch a little bit, obviously, on their offense. We know it's going to be great, but the question is how great. Oklahoma, I didn't realize this stat. They're the only team ever to average 8 yards per play, and they've done it 3 straight years. Like that's incredible.
That's crazy.
I don't think I'm as confident that that's going to happen this year. I mean, it certainly could, but overall as a team, I'm actually going to go under on Oklahoma. And to me, it's just because there's some questions. How quick can they make Rattler into a superstar? Will the production be significantly less compared to years past for OU? Is it going to take them a few games to kind of gel and get going? To me, there's just I don't think there's going to be this dramatic drop off in overall production, but there's just enough questions in my eyes where it's like it kind of makes me at least think. They do have one of the best offensive lines in football. Not too concerned there. The Whiteouts, though, they lose CeeDee Lamb. Even though there's some receivers there. They've got talent, but there's something to prove. I'm still confident overall they'll put up numbers just based on the system alone. The running back position might be a weakness. Trey Sermon transferred away. Brooks is actually sitting out. So you've got some questions there. We addressed the concerns, at least I had, on the defense. Alex Grinch got them pointed in the right direction, but they're not going to be confused with, the 85 Bears or anything in terms of a defense. And my last kind of piece on Oklahoma is I just personally this year, I think the top half of the Big 12 is a little bit better than it's been. I think it's a lot more competitive, and there's going to be some chances where Oklahoma can get picked off. So that's kind of why I leaned under.
Yeah, you make some good points there, especially the point about the rest of the conference. I really like the second tier that we're about to get to, but I don't know. I'm going to go over. As long as Lincoln Riley's calling the plays, the offense is going to be really good. I would expect Spencer Rattler to be in the Heisman race as long as he's healthy. Like you say, entire offensive line is back. Skill talent is a question mark with, of course, the running backs transferring away. Ramondre Stevenson suspended for the first 5 games. And then at receiver, losing a lot of guys. Even Jaden Hazelwood might be out for the year with an injury. Trajan Bridges, another one of those guys, suspended for 5 games at receiver. So they're kind of going down the depth chart. I mean, you've got one sure thing in Charleston Rambo, though. The UCLA transfer coming in, Theo Howard at receiver, should be solid. And they recruit well. So
yeah,
they're going to be fine. But there are, I hear you, there are enough question marks with the skill talent. So the question here, by the way, all these teams are playing 10 games in the Big 12. That's the plan. So
yeah,
the question is, will OU lose 2 games in conference? Excuse me, conference, because Missouri State is the non-conference. I think that's a win. And they've gone 8-1 every year under Lincoln Riley with 3 different quarterbacks, with defenses probably worse than they're going to have this year. So I'll just lean over.
Yeah, it's 5 straight years where they've had one or few losses in conference. So I am going to go over also on OU. I think the offense will slightly regress, but I don't think a whole lot. Lincoln Riley is just shuffling in guys left and right.
Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, and the offensive line is going to be great. So whatever losses maybe they have on the outside, CeeDee Lamb's obviously big, but they got Theo Howard coming in the transfer. So from UCLA, that's, like you said, it's going to help. I just don't see that offense not being really, really good, and the defense is going to be better. So yeah, they'll find a way to be amazing, and I can't go against OU. Can't say that they're going to lose 2 games in conference.
I did want I did want to kind of point out just a general overall thought on Oklahoma, and the kind of the narrative of them just, getting to the playoff and losing and stuff. It made me, everyone talks about that, and that's the media loves to harp on it, that Oklahoma can't win. But I really actually kind of started to think about it. I'm going to actually give them credit. A couple years ago, they went to the Rose Bowl, lost an overtime thriller to Georgia. That Georgia team was, arguably should have beaten Alabama in the national title. So no reason Oklahoma couldn't have done that. And then last year, they ran into an absolute buzzsaw in LSU. I agree that the defense didn't look good or hasn't looked good, but I mean, LSU did the same pretty much to Clemson. And so I think the narrative is maybe a little overblown. Like, they still are really, really good.
Yeah. And even a couple years ago, the one in between against Alabama, that Alabama team had arguably the greatest regular season of all time.
Yeah.
And they were amazing with Tua, and OU, they hung around in that game. They ended up losing, I think, by 2 touchdowns. And then Alabama did get crushed to Clemson, but I don't know. That was one game. That Alabama team was really, really good. So I'm with you. I mean, there's worse things than going to the playoff and losing.
Right. All right. So now I'll kind of take the reins here with as we get into our second tier. And at number 2, we have the Texas Longhorns. So, Michael, are we saying they're back? They're over under set at 7.5.
Well, I'm thinking there's at least a decent chance of backness this year. So, Tom Herman, we kind of forget the first 2 years for Herman were good. Like, they were trending in the right direction. Everything was going well, recruiting going really well. And then last year, I don't think it was that unexpected. They lost so much production from the year before. I think we all went under on their win total. We thought 2019, they're going to take a step back before taking a big step forward in 2020. So I'm sticking with that. I'm high on them this year. Offense should be good again. Sam Ehlinger back. Herb Hand does a great job with the offensive line. He's got Samuel Cosme, a great piece to build around at left tackle. They've got a lot of depth at running back. That's kind of been an issue for them for the past several years. Yeah, I mean, they've got like 4 really good guys.
Sure.
And then the receiving core, I actually really like. They lost Devin Duvernay and Colin Johnson, so you'd think I'd be questionable on it, but Jake Smith was good as a freshman last year. And the big guy I'm excited about, of course, is they bring in Tariq Black from Michigan.
Oh, gosh.
They really like him. Apparently he's been looking really good in camp. They even listed him as the starter ahead of Brennan Eagles. I just saw that 2 hours ago before we started this podcast.
Herman's going to use him better than Harbaugh.
Yeah, I hope so. And then defensively, that's where they struggled last year, but they were so banged up, especially in the secondary. They're going to bounce back. They return just about everyone up front. Joseph Osai should have a huge year on the edge. He had an amazing bowl game last year. So I'm going to go over, even with 2 new coordinators on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, it's Herman's feeling the heat right now. So that was obviously the reason for the moves. But yeah, I'm with you. It's pretty much the exact same reasoning. We knew it was going to be a hiccup last year, and just looking forward to a big year this year. It all starts with Ehlinger, man. He's a stud. He's improved a lot over the years as a passer. Just kind of going a line with how tough he is as a runner. The O-line, they do have a good coach, Herb Hand. They kind of maybe want to take it up to the next step, improve that overall. But yeah, like you said, they have some good pieces coming back. So I'm a little bit more worried about the receivers than you are. I think Devin Duvernay was a stud for them, almost like the CeeDee Lamb for Texas, just like he was awesome. He really, really led the way for him. So that concerns me a little bit. And if you're going to rely on Tariq Black as the main guy, I'm reluctant.
Reluctant. No, that's
but
fair.
not, I think they're going to be bad. I just don't think it'll be that group will be as good as last year. So,
okay,
maybe that's they don't need to be, and they'll still be a little better overall. But yeah, and the defense though, they do have somebody sitting out. It was their defensive end was like Marquez Brimage. He's was in line to start. I didn't start last year, but he did play a lot. So that's one piece that they'll have to fill. But they'll be fine as long as no other significant things happen. So I think their secondary is going to be a lot better though, led by Caden Stearns. That guy's a fantastic safety. So yeah, I'm high on Texas this year. So I'm also going to go over on them.
Yeah, it's a sweep for us. We're all going over. I love to back I go over on a team where I really trust their quarterback play, like Ellinger. Even if he doesn't improve at all, I think I've mentioned this before. Even if he doesn't improve at all, you know the production you're going to get, and it's great. It's a ton of a ton of impact. Like he's a stat stuffer. I trust him through the air and on the ground. And then you bring in like guys like Bijan Robinson, the 5-star running back, Keontae Ingram. Also, like there's a stable there to help him.
Apparently, Rashawn Johnson has been looking great in the offseason, the converted quarterback last year who was their running back. So, yeah, they're loaded. And they just brought in a transfer at running back from like Northern Iowa or some. He was like the D2 leading rusher or something. So, yeah, they're loaded.
FCS.
Yeah. Oh, was it FCS?
I don't know. Well,
I said Northern Iowa, but so I think I was wrong on Northern Iowa. I think it was
some high productive guy. Either way, and then you guys kind of touched on the defense. I just love the fact that not only are they gained production last year, but they also were ravaged by injury. So reversing that this year, it just kind of leads to a promising 2020. And I think Herman makes a statement this year.
All right. And we didn't bring up the names of those two coordinators. I think Mike Yurcich coming in from Ohio State, and then Chris Ash, the former Rutgers head coach. So, in hindsight, I don't think if I were Herman, I wouldn't have fired the existing coordinators just because, with the pandemic, it's not really the ideal time to be switching things up. But they were good hires, so hopefully it works out.
They're good hires, yeah, for sure.
All right. Moving on to number 3. We're still here in Tier 2, and it's Oklahoma State. Their win total is set at 7. The over is a slight favorite at -125. What do you think, Ryan?
I think this team is going to be very good. They returned almost everybody. I mean, it's crazy the amount of starters that they have coming back on this group. And considering they could have had a couple guys leave early, when you talk about Chuba Hubbard and Tylan Wallace, it's like those guys could have gone in the NFL easily, especially Hubbard. It was a little questionable. Like, what are you doing, bro? Go, bro.
Yeah.
You're amazing. But they do the couple guys they lose. It's like a couple offensive linemen and then AJ Green at corner, who was a second team all conference corner. So that is a loss. But I mean, when that's all you're dealing with, you should be good. So the offense should be one of the best in the country, so long as Spencer Sanders doesn't hold them back. That's the one thing. They have everything you need. They got great wide receivers. It's not even just Tylan Wallace. They got other Dylan Stoner. They got a Chuba Hubbard. They got all the skill position talent. The offensive line's back. Can Spencer Sanders take them to the next level?
Offensive line, I will say, in the last couple months, even the last few weeks, they've gotten some bad news. They lost their starting left tackle, Dylan Galloway, to retirement. Their backup left tackle to dismissal. Their right guard to dismissal. All starters. Well, except for the backup that I mentioned, but their center, of course, graduated. We already knew that. And the 4-year starter at guard, Marcus Keys, graduated. So there's not a couple months ago, it looked good, but with those dismissals, it's now at least a little bit.
Still 3 guys like upperclassmen that are starting, like they're, but I hear you.
And they still have the West Virginia transfer offensive lineman Sills, though, right? So
yeah, that was a big transfer to come in. Yeah, Josh Sills.
Exactly. So it's still going to have upperclassmen there, and I mean, they're blocking for Chuba. So I like them. The defense, it really actually wasn't bad last year. They were 37th in terms of overall defensive efficiency. So with pretty much 10 of those starters back, a ton of playing experience. Their linebacking core is solid. Malcolm Rodriguez leads a solid group. And then they have an up-and-comer on that defense, Thomas Harper. He's kind of a secondary, kind of like a Swiss Army knife. He can kind of play safety, corner, nickel, which in the Big 12 seems like you really need a guy like that. So he should be a big piece. And hell, you got Colby Harvey Peelback, safety stud. He had 8 interceptions last year, I think it was. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else. I just think I'm over on them. If I haven't said it already, over. I think
they're such a trendy team, and usually when it comes to trendy teams, I kind of go the other way, and I think I actually am. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just me, and I could be proven wrong, but don't you feel like Gundy, the best teams he has are the years that you don't really expect it? Just in my eyes, that's just kind of my feel. I'm just a little hesitant because last year, when all those big 3 that you mentioned were healthy, you had Chuba Hubbard, Tylan Wallace, Spencer Sanders. They went 5-3 in that stretch. I know Spencer Sanders has a year under his belt and he should take that next leap, but still, I'm just a little hesitant. So I'm going under just to be against the grain. I still think they'll win 7. So if I had to, maybe I would say push.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I'm being unfair. Sanders has those tools, and God, he just looks the part. And I hope he can kind of take that next step. But I want him to prove it to me. And I'm also hesitant to ever have a ton of faith in Oklahoma State's defense, even though they do return a lot of production. It's just a question mark.
Colby Harvey-Peel had 5 interceptions. Excuse me.
Oh,
Got a
not
little
quite
excited.
8.
7th in the nation. Excuse me.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I'm actually with Trey. I'm going to go under 2 because in order to get beat here on this, if I went over or if they're going to go over, they need to go 8-2, and that's with a schedule that includes OU on the road. So I think that's a lot to ask. Like I said, I have some concerns about their offensive line. I know the offense is going to be good, but it's just how good, I guess, is the question. But that O-line, little iffy right now after some of those defections. And then at quarterback, Spencer Sanders, everything about him is good. He's he can run the ball. He can throw the deep ball well. The only question is the turnovers. And you brought that up, Ryan. 11 interceptions and 5 lost fumbles last year. So 16, and he didn't even play the whole season. And they didn't even air it out, a ton. He didn't have a ton of passing attempts. I'll say that. So that is a concern, enough for me to go under the 7, even though I'm with Trey. 7-3 is probably the most likely.
Fair enough. I'm hoping Sanders takes a jump here with the Gundy.
I do too. It'd be fun to watch.
Another thing they have going for them is they get Iowa State and Texas at home, so that's huge. The other
fighting for that 2 spot. Well, assuming so.
Coming to Boone Pickens.
Yep. All right, here are we on to the next one. Yep, we got Iowa State, last team of our second tier here. Their win totals being set at 6.5, and it's even money, minus 115 both ways. So, Michael, what do you think here on good old Iowa? Oh no, it's Trey. Trey, what do you think on Iowa State?
Either way, and I have a feeling Michael's going to have a similar sentiment, but I'm going over on the Cyclones. I really like Matt Campbell. It's almost blind every year. I'm just going to kind of go over just because I really like Matt Campbell. But no, that he has the program on solid ground, and this has the potential to be his best team there. Looking back to last year, they lost 4 games by a touchdown or less. So I'm expecting a couple of those maybe to bounce their way this way. It was a disappointing finish to Notre Dame. They kind of got routed there in their bowl game, but maybe they use that as motivation or for whatever that's worth in the offseason.
Good Notre Dame team.
It actually really was. But then when I look at the team itself, they honestly might have the best quarterback in the Big 12, Brock Purdy. As a sophomore, he threw for almost 4,000 yards, 27 touchdowns. He has a great All-American tight end in Charlie Kohler. He was his favorite target. They got Tariq Milton, who as a receiver last year averaged over 20 yards a catch.
Yeah, big play.
You got Breece Hall at running back, very solid. They have all the skill position talent you could ask for. The O-line, I will admit, they do have to step it up. They do lose a lot of production there,
and they weren't very good.
Yeah, that's fair. But Purdy still produced.
Yep.
And then the defense, I'm not going to touch on it too much, but they've been ranked near the top of the conference under Campbell every year he's been there. So I feel they're in a good groove there, and they should be solid. So we're going to learn a lot from them too in their first game. They play Louisiana, who's arguably one of the hot G5 teams. So yeah. So, but I'm going over on the Cyclones.
I'm with you. I'm extremely high on Iowa State. I said earlier, I think they have the best defense in the Big 12. Secondary brings everybody back, including Greg Eisworth at safety, Anthony Johnson at corner. Front 7 has a lot of returning production and even gets Jaquan Bailey at defensive end back from injury, one of their best players. And you covered the offense well, Trey. It's great everywhere except for the O-line. So, they're not perfect. The O-line is, I think, the one glaring weakness on the team, but I think they're still good enough to
better
go
about
7
it,
and
though,
3.
is what the word is. They actually feel a little bit better about where they were on the offensive
line. Yeah, I know
line.
Campbell likes the way they've recruited the offensive line, and you trust that staff to develop the talent they're getting. So yeah, over on Iowa State, and I'm actually going to make that my lock.
Ooh, wow! I have Iowa State at 7-3. Oof. All right. Yeah, I'm going over on Iowa State actually as well. I like them. The defense last year it was good, but it wasn't like maybe as good as people thought it was going to be. They had like everybody coming back. Everybody expected them to be really, really dominant, and they just kind of disappointed a little bit, especially on that third down. But not they weren't bad, but they do lose a couple guys. You guys didn't bring Ray Lima, stud up front, and Marcel Spears, who was a fixture for them for the past few years, tackling machine at linebacker. So losing those guys is going to hurt. But like you said, they did lose Jaquan Bailey early on last year, so he was able to get another year. Eisworth was hurt most of last year, playing hurt.
Yeah.
It wasn't as effective as he was maybe in previous year. So I think the
Purdy
defense
was even hurt. He had an ankle that
true.
hobbled him a
Forgot
little bit.
about
So
that.
Who was? I'm sorry.
Brock Purdy.
Oh, right. Yep. So I think they're going to be better on both sides of the ball. Maybe a little bit better on defense, and maybe a little bit better on offense, just slightly. So, but that's good enough, I think, to get them over. So I'm going to agree with you guys and go over.
By the way, talking about players leaving after last year, I feel like we tend to focus on the team this year, which I think makes sense, but sometimes we forget some of the guys that left. So just remembering back to OU, we didn't even mention Kenneth Murray, obviously a huge loss for the defense. Neville Gallimore up front, but everybody else coming back. That's why we're still high in the defense.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. We're all bending our hats just like Matt Campbell. We're all in favor of the Cyclones this year. All right. So now we're going to get into our third tier. And at number 5, we've got the West Virginia Mountaineers.
Whoa.
Yeah. Might be surprising. The over-under is set at 4.5. What are you seeing, Michael?
Yeah. Michael. Sorry.
Ryan, come on, man.
Ryan, he wants to get to it.
He's I think the highest on them, maybe Trey, but
yeah.
Apparently we all are.
Well, I wasn't quite as high as you guys, even though we averaged our rankings together and they came out 5th. But so I maybe would have had them 6th or 7th. But I am higher on them than most people, I think. So I think they're going to get better quarterback play this year. I like the way Jarrett Diggy played at the end of last season, the transfer from Bowling Green. I think he's going to be a major upgrade, at least to the production that Austin Kendall had last year. Austin Kendall wasn't very good. 6 of the top 7 receivers are back, including their star sophomore, Sam James. The big question is the running game. It was pathetic last year. Just
it's nuts how bad it was.
So bad. I want to say like no one on the team averaged 3.5 yards per carry. At least
I don't know how they won. They won 5 games last year, or
I think 5 and 7 was their record
how'd
last
they
year.
do that with that bad of a ground game?
I don't know. But that is a concern, and they lose their best O-lineman, Colton McKivitz. So questionable O-line, but that's why they're tier 3 here.
Minor details.
Yeah, exactly. Defensively, I like the defensive line with the Stills brother, especially, of course, Darius Stills, a major NFL prospect, but also his little brother, Dante. Sean Mahone's a really good safety. Outside of that, not a ton of proven talent on the defense, so it's not like it's going to be great, but I think it should be improved. Overall, I think this is a bet on Neil Brown. I just trust a year 2 jump. He had a big jump in year 2 at Troy, so I'll go over here.
Yeah, I agree. This is my 5th over already out of 5 teams. I promise you, my unders are coming. I know.
Bullish.
I'm 6. It's 6 overs, 4 unders on this podcast for me.
Okay.
Maybe I should have taken another under, but it's what I'm feeling, guys. So
okay,
it's gonna work. Anyways, to me, brilliant move by Neil Brown to keep the red shirt on Jarrett Diggy, only playing in 4 games last year. I don't think it's any coincidence he showed up in the 4th to last game last year. So he preserved his eligibility. Now he's got 2 full years with Diggy as the quarterback. And there's no doubt he's better than Austin Kendall. It was a different team, and Kendall was very inefficient for the time he was in there. But I mean, with the ground game as pathetic as it was, and they still had those 5 wins, and they were close in a lot of the losses that they had. Second year jump is going to happen. Those Stills brothers, they both had 7 sacks last year. I mean, those are some very productive defensive linemen that they have. So yeah, I like these guys. The talent should be a little bit better, but the depth should be a lot better. Give me a year 2 leap for Neil Brown.
Yeah, I'm all in on the year 2 leap for Neil Brown. And you guys have touched on Diggy, and it was frustrating last year because I didn't really know their plan with Diggy, because throughout the whole year I kept thinking, I remember him transferring from Bowling Green. I was like, he's good, like he's solid. And then he proved it in his last 4 games or 3 games, whatever it was. I really am buying Diggy there. But you know what, you guys mentioned the rushing woes. They didn't score a rushing touchdown after October 5th.
That bad?
It's not good.
It's pretty amazing. But when I look at their schedule this year, because I am buying the leap. I think they're going to improve with Diggy. I'm not really concerned. They know that the running game was a weakness. So even if you got to think it's going to improve at least a little bit. But I was looking at their schedule. They have a chance to get some confidence in their first 6 games, as really all their tough games are in the back half. So if they get in a groove, I feel like that they could maybe even pull an upset come November. So that's another reason why I went over on the Mountaineers, and I made them my lock.
Okay. Let's see here. Moving on to number 6 team. We're still here in tier 3, and it is Baylor. Their season win total is set at 6. The under is a big favorite at -145. And Ryan, last year Baylor was your team. You picked them to win the Big 12 title. They almost did it, but we still give you a lot of credit for that.
2 heartbreaks versus OU. Really
unbelievable.
2 stabs in both of my chests here. Oof.
So
All right. Anyways,
are you in on them again?
The love affair is over. It's year to year, man. You can't just, you got to go with what you feel. So, it's hard to, 1 year is a long time to be married, as they say. Right?
Wow.
The Seinfeld quote.
Like, they say.
Remember Seinfeld? There was somebody might have got that. But it was like,
I'm a huge Seinfeld buff, but I don't remember.
Yeah, he's like, oh, well, 2 years is a long time to be married.
Sounds a little familiar, but I like it.
Surprised you don't remember that.
Sounds like something Jerry would say.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm down on them. I'm going under here on Baylor. It was the defense that carried them last year, 100%. That defense was, to me, that was the best defense in the conference. They were hard hitting. They were fast. I just remember watching them. There's like, they come with the wood, man, and they're just flying all over the place. That defense was really special. And I know Dave Aranda coming in, the new head coach. He's a defensive guru, defensive guy, but with only a couple returning guys on that side of the ball, new system, I just think it's going to be an uphill battle. There's no way that they're going to be anywhere close to as good as they were on that side of the ball. And on offense, I just think they're going to be pretty similar to what they were last year. I mean, Charlie Brewer's back, which, he's a solid quarterback for sure, but he's not elite like some of the other guys around the country. He's a little limited. He's got good legs and decent arm, but he's not amazing. So, and then, they lose Denzel Mims, so maybe their best player on offense. So the old line's been pathetic. So I don't think it's going to really change all that much. Maybe they can slightly improve, but I just think the offense is about the same. Defense drastically goes under and kind of puts more pressure on the offense to have to be better. So they might have to, put more pressure on Charlie Brewer, which could be bad. So I'm under on Baylor. Thought about making it my lock, but I'm holding off. Can't go that drastic of a change.
Yeah, and
lock positive to lock negative. Ooh.
I'm going under as well. They were such a fortunate team last year. They won 4 conference games by 5 or less. Like, it just seemed every weekend. Granted, they did have the 2 heartbreakers.
Couple heartbreak losses, yeah.
They did have that, but that's not going to happen again this year. They're not going to have. They were also plus 11 in turnover margin. That,
true, I didn't
like
mention that.
you talked about the defense, how strong they were. It's just not going to be the case this year, even with Aranda.
It was weird that happened though, because the year before they were like one of the worst teams in the country at forcing turnovers. And I remember with what we were talking about, Michael was so low on Baylor because of that. And
was I? Wait,
you compared them
he
to,
usually he likes to go back to the
Oregon
mean.
State. Huh?
Usually Michael said it would fall back to the.
Yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
maybe
the
it was
turnovers are so kind of.
Maybe it was me,
large,
whatever.
Michael made the
cookie.
point where he kept comparing Baylor to Oregon State, and he was like, "Well, if they can get out of the company of Oregon State, then they might be better off." But
That does sound familiar.
yeah,
Ryan has a.
Anyway.
You really remember.
I do remember that.
last year.
Though, but-
yeah, I don't know. That one sticks
now-
out. Baylor was kind of a big call for me last year.
But to me, they lose. It's easy to say. It just kind of doesn't seem like doing the hard hitting analysis, but they just lose too much production. The coaching staff turnover. The 6 just seems a little too high for me. So I got to go under. I'd just be surprised if they went 7-3.
Yeah, I think the number just kind of necessitates going under. I think 6 is too high. Especially with a team that's 127th in returning production. But I don't think it's all doom and gloom. I think there's a chance that they could be a good team this year. I don't think the bottom is just going to fall completely out under them. So, like the talent and experience on offense, Ryan, you brought that up. Offense should be fine, and they did bring in some transfers on defense to address some issues. William Bradley King on the edge, coming from Arkansas State. He was first team All Sun Belt. He should be really good. They got Dylan Doyle, a linebacker from Iowa, who apparently they really like. He hasn't proven a whole lot yet, but supposedly he's looked good in camp. And Larry Fedora, I think, is potentially a solid hire at offensive coordinator.
Going to Southern Miss.
What's that?
He might be going to Southern Miss.
Oh, really? Oh, now Southern Miss, their head coach just stepped down. So I don't know.
Weird.
Yeah. Weird
anyway,
deal.
You see what he's like? Oh, I'm a full support of this. I think it's ready for a new leadership. He says Jace Hobson said that.
Well, it's better than just getting fired, I guess.
I mean, I guess, but it's like, really, after one game, you figure that out? You couldn't figure that out before? Like,
Baylor said the same thing when you divorced them. They're like, oh, we're happy that Ryan's not cheering for us this year. We're in full support of Ryan.
It's bulletin board material for them.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough.
I don't know what I was saying, but anyway, I'm going under as well. It's just the number's too high.
Yeah, that's tough. All right. Moving on to our next team here in Tier 3. We have the TCU Horn Frogs. They're over under set at 6, so a pretty high number again. The under is the heavy favorite there as well. So, yeah, Trey, what do you think about the Horn Frogs? You like yourself some Gary Patterson.
I really do, and I really wanted to just go all in on TCU this year, but they've had, in the last few weeks, they have had some tough luck. First of all, it's a shame there's been a COVID outbreak, so they have to postpone their game against SMU in the Iron Skillet that was supposed to be this week. That got postponed, so that's unfortunate. I was actually, just on a personal note, I was looking forward to watching that game. Yeah. And then, of course, the bigger news was Max Duggan being out indefinitely after discovering a heart issue. So the timetable on that is completely unknown, really, at this point. So that's obviously a big loss when you lose your starting quarterback, weeks before the season. It looks like it'll be the Georgia walk-on transfer, Matthew Downing, but he's getting pressure from a JUCO transfer as well. There's just, right now, I guess there's just too many red flags for me to take the over, which, like I said, it's unfortunate because all offseason, I kind of thought I'd be bullish or going over on them. But now that their SMU game got canceled, it's looking like their first 2 games are going to end up being against Iowa State and at Texas. So there's a realistic chance they might start 0-2 in the cellar. So that's tough for me. But I did want to touch on a couple of the good things, let you guys get the rest. But they will have one of the better defenses in the conference, especially on the back end. They got guys like Ardarius Washington, safety Trayvon Morig. He was second on the team in tackles. They got an LSU transfer on the edge. He's going to be an edge rusher, Marcel Brooks. He was a 5-star in the 2019 class. He got declared eligible because he's got some family issues in the town near Fort Worth. They do lose Jalen Rieger at receiver, but they got the Nebraska transfer, J.D. Spielman, so he should fit in well. He's eligible. And then they also, my last point is they brought in one of the top running back recruits in Zach Evans. But just the clouds of the unknown at quarterback, the scheduling now, it kind of threw me off. So I had to lean under.
Yeah, even with the juice plus 135 over, that the benefit they're giving you there, I don't think I can do it. I think I got to go under. Offense has been a problem for years now. They can't get a quarterback. Last year, Duggan was at least showed some promise. He was, a good runner, and passing, he was really efficient last year, but there was hope because he was such a highly recruited player that he would take that step forward this year. Now I just don't have any hope really at that quarterback position unless, Downing stuns us. I don't see it being, I see them being maybe the worst in terms of quarterbacks in the Big 12, and just losing their best skill players from last year, a good portion of the O-line. I know the defense is good, but not good, not elite to be able to carry that offense. So yeah, I'm going under.
Yes, I am going under here as well. That is, it seems like having them have to go 7-3 to beat you. Wow, that is a tall task when you're going to be starting a former walk-on quarterback, young guy, not much talent to work with. Offensive line is shambles. Defense, is good, yes, but they did lose a lot of production from last year. Ross Blacklock left early to go to the NFL. Defensive lineman. They only got 22 sacks last year. Some of they had a good defense, but they didn't get near the amount of pressure that they're used to. So I'm not seeing it with TCU this year really at all. I think they'll have them and Kansas might have the two worst offenses in the conference. Well, K-State might have a bad one too, but anyways, they still have Skylar Thompson. So anyways, I'm going under, and I'm going to make TCU under my lock. I think they'd be lucky to get to 5-5, honestly.
Well,
ouch.
Sorry.
Yeah. No,
I
so
told you the unders were coming. Just
So we go from one purple team to another. The Kansas State Wildcats are number 8 team. Their over-under is set at 5.5 with their under as well, a big favorite at -175. Michael, which way are you leaning with them?
I like K-State. I think they should have been a little bit higher on our list. I think I had them maybe sixth or seventh. They're solid. Skylar Thompson is a pretty good quarterback. Like we've mentioned, he's got the running ability. He's reasonably efficient through the air. He's got a couple of promising sophomore receivers in Malik Knowles and Joshua Youngblood, who was great as a return guy. They're going to try and get him more involved in the offense this season. Running back by committee, I don't worry too much about that. The O-line is the big question mark. They lose 5 starters. But, I just think K-State recruits and develops that position. I trust the coaching staff with Chris Kleiman to get the most out of the talent. So hopefully they can remain decent and still have a solid running game. And the defense I like. They lost some good pieces on the defensive line, but Wyatt Hubert, one of the best defensive ends one of the best pass rushers at defensive end in the conference. They get their best linebacker, Justin Hughes, back from an ACL tear. Secondary returns 4 starters after finishing second in the conference in passing yards allowed. So I think even though the line is high, which it seems like a theme here, 5.5 is a little higher than I would like. Since I'm getting +145 over, I guess I'll take that over.
yeah, I disagree.
Okay.
Going under. Sorry. Yeah, Kleeman did a great job last year, no doubt about it. He was surprised everybody getting those 8 wins, and a lot of folks were, just shocked by that. But he was gifted a very experienced team last year, and it all started up front with that offensive line. I think I give so much credit to that line as to how they were able to surprise people last year. All 5 were seniors, all 5 were good players, been around. See you later. Now have to replace everybody. That's how Kleeman got his calling card. I think that's the strength of like how he got North Dakota State going. That strong offensive line that helps you run the ball, control the game. Not going to have that this year. I think they're going to struggle to run the ball. Skylar Thompson is not. He's an efficient passer because he didn't have to throw very much in my eyes. I don't think he's a very good passer at all. So I think this could be maybe arguably the worst offense in the Big 12. It's going to be a tight battle between those other schools I already mentioned, but they're going to be really, really struggling, and it's going to affect the defense as well. So, yeah, and they don't have a ton returning on the line. I'm under on them.
Yeah, so I'm agreeing with Ryan on under, but I fall in between you guys. Ryan's pretty vehemently one way, and Michael's at least a little more optimistic. I might be one of us 3. I might be the biggest fan of Kleiman, but right now, this year is too hard for me. I really want to see what he can do in year 2 with so much turnover. Like, not only did they lose, we talked about the whole offensive line. It was every single start, and as a team, they had the second most seniors start in the country last year, at least more on the offense. The other thing with the offense is they were number 1 in red zone offense in the country. So with the lack of some of that production going away, and a natural regression, I don't see that happening. So that led to some of their on-field success last year. But overall, it's just too many personnel losses for me to say that they're going to go over.
Okay. I hope right now for you guys are buffering a little bit for me. Hopefully on the audio podcast, it's fine. And apologies to the YouTube viewers if that's the case. But anyway, moving on to our 9th team here. We're still in tier 3, and it is Texas Tech. The Red Raiders their over-under set at 4.5. So what are you thinking here, Ryan?
I'm higher on Texas Tech this year. 4.5 is, I feel like, an appropriate kind of line. So I'm going to take the over. They were 4-8 last year, but they were 0-4 in one-score games. And really only 2 of the games they played, OU and Texas, weren't really competitive. So they had some bad luck in close games. Could have won a few more. Could have gone bowling, really. I'm not a huge fan of Matt Wells, really, in the long term, for sure. But I think year 2, with the amount of production that they have coming back, I do think they're going to go over. They do lose Jet Duffy at quarterback, but remember, he filled in for the injured Alan Bowman at the beginning of the year, and Duffy ended up having solid numbers. But I think Bowman is probably a little bit better in my eyes. Duffy, he left to. He's had some issues. He left to Tulane or something, and then tried to go to Central Michigan.
Central Michigan, yeah.
And then they didn't accept his. I don't know. They accept him in the school, so I don't know. Anyways, Alan Bowman's the guy, and he's got a ton of returning talent. He's got 3 guys on the line, and 3 out of his top 4 receivers, and Sir Roderick Thompson at running back is a good running back. So pieces in there are going to have an explosive, should have a good offense, and the defense has got a lot coming back. They have several starters, just really 3 guys that they mainly lose. Good guys. Here's the 8 interception guy. It was Douglas Coleman. I knew they had 8 interceptions. Yeah, he's gone. So that's going to be a tough blow. But they had a ton of injuries last year that really hurt them and made them one of the worst defenses in the country. So it's not like they have much room to go down. So it just gives them a lot of room to go up from where they were with all those senior starters that they're supposed to have. Expect them to take a jump forward. Offense, defense gets better. They win some close games. Think they're going over.
Yeah. And I'm going to take that plus 120 money as well and go over on the Red Raiders. I really like Alan Bowman when he's healthy, but that's always been the question mark, unfortunate, the last couple of years with him. Yeah. But like you said, they returned most of his weapons. Another stat, they were 0-4 in games decided by 3 or less. So the really close games.
3 or less. I said 1 score or less. You wouldn't even
1 score or less. Yeah, they lost
even worse.
They lost some tight games. And they didn't obviously have Bowman the whole year. Granted, like you said, Duffy did pretty well. And then on the defense, they're not stalwarts by any means, but they return some veterans on all 3 levels of that defense. So they're not going to be totally anemic on that side of the ball. So it's kind of trending to over for me as well.
Yeah, I hear you guys. The close games, last year they were probably better than their record. And I see the defense getting better with all they have coming back. Eli Howard as a defensive end, one of the better ones in the conference. Rico Jeffers, a solid linebacker. So that side of the ball will get better. I don't see the offense getting much better because as we keep repeating, Jet Duffy was good. So, and Alan Bowman also is an injury risk. Obviously, that's unfortunately he's been out a lot. So that's a concern too. So I think they'll improve, but not quite enough to hit 5 wins. So I'll go 4-6 under. Okay.
All right. We had the last one. Yes, here we are. Our tier 4.
Oh no.
Kansas gets their own tier.
Big surprise.
Right. Yeah, they're over under set at 2.5, or 2.5 with the under being the heavy favorite on that one. So Trey, man, what do you think of Les Miles' team this year?
I got to go under on them. I mean, last year they're kind of a hard team to predict. I mean, you look at last year, they had that resounding win at Boston College, big surprise. But then they come home and lose to Coastal Carolina like 12-7 or something like that. So they're somewhat capable.
Coach Vance.
Yeah, they're somewhat capable, but they're also like they have these head scratchers.
And they almost beat Texas.
That's true. That's right. Yeah. People naturally thought that Les just kind of improved them last year, but in reality, some of the metrics didn't really prove that. They didn't really do a whole lot. They actually scored, we look just solely at the offense, they actually scored less last year than they did the year before, for whatever that's worth. I will say, though, they made an offensive coordinator change in the middle of last year. Brent Dearman, he took over midway. They did at least take a little bit of a step forward. So hopefully with some continuity in the offseason, that'll help. It looks like the quarterback again will be McVitie. And then
I don't know.
Kendrick.
I think Miles Kendrick seems to be the favorite.
Okay.
He's got the running ability.
But it's kind of funny. We kind of
have that.
We kind of thought last year Kendrick was going to get more run, and then it was McVitie. So I don't know. Who knows? It could change.
But to your
And-
point, Trey, yeah, it's a competition.
It's competition. And then the other factor with the offense is they lose their second leading rusher, Khalil Herbert, to transfer to Virginia Tech, but they still got Puka Williams coming back. So he's awesome. Like he's a
Yeah,
great
very
piece.
good.
He's a piece to great piece to have. Now when I look at some of the games in terms of how they're going to get to the over, they're only a slight favorite against Coastal Carolina in
Better
their
beat
non-conference
Coastal.
game. And then you look in the Big 12, they're most likely going to be an underdog in almost every game, if not everyone, depending on the scenarios.
It'd be a shock if they were a favorite against any team in the Big 12.
Maybe they could have some home game, but either way,
Yeah.
the other factor that I did not even know this, I had to look this up to be true. They haven't won 2 Big 12 games since 2008.
Ooh, wow.
Whoa.
They've
Wow.
won 0 or 1 every year for 11, 12 years. That's incredible.
Wait, 09 they didn't? I thought, oh wow. Well, that's crazy.
It's
I guess that's when
unbelievable.
Okay, because
So
07 was their
07
year.
was the year they went 12
And then
or whatever.
08
Yeah.
they had I think maybe like eight wins, and then they
the
tanked.
the gods were like, Kansas went 12 and
Wow.
1. We have to
Yeah,
take
you're
that
done
back."
for
No,
at least
yeah.
2 decades.
it's a shame, but
Wow.
I just need them to prove that they can win
That's
over.
They got to beat
multiple
Coastal
games.
and win 2 then? That's tough.
That's why I went under.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing to like about Kansas, I feel like, is the skill talent. They've got 3 pretty good senior receivers coming back, and like you said, Puka Williams, he would be a star if he weren't playing for Kansas at running back. But everywhere else, they're bad. The defense is the worst in the Power 5. It's just there's not much to like here. So and they're 126th in returning production.
Yeah, I know
It's not
they're
like
bad and they lose everybody.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
going under.
Yeah, just pray Puka doesn't get hurt, because then they'll really have no chance. And he's fun to watch, dude. Puka he was awesome. He's awesome.
Mhm.
But yeah, this is an easy answer. It's under. Even with all the plus money that you could get going over, just no conceivable way that I can ask them to get 2 Big 12 wins. So, yep, going under.
Okay, but they might beat Texas. That's always a
Right.
possibility.
They'll beat somebody.
right.
They'll beat somebody this year. They won't go
Yeah.
winless.
Who was their win last year? They beat Texas Tech, right?
Yeah, that was a crazy
that was a
game.
heartbreaker for Texas.
Oh
Tech.
my gosh.
Yeah. I think what happened was, I want to say Kansas was
was
attempting the game-winning field goal. Or
Yeah,
some-
it was something.
Wait,
And
no.
Texas Tech blocked it and tried to run it back, or maybe I'm getting it.
something
backward.
like that. And then they fumbled it back to them, and then Kansas got another chance and made it.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, I
That's
know
what happened
Kansas
to
got
Nebraska
2
against them
chances.
like 10 years ago.
Yeah, Kansas got 2 chances, but either way, it's crazy.
Okay, there's the 10 Big 12 teams. That makes sense. We'll recap the over-unders here. So if you're watching on YouTube, all 3 of us agreed on the over for Texas, over 7.5 wins. We all agreed over Iowa State, 6.5 wins, and I made it my lock. All of us were under on Baylor and under on TCU, both under 6 wins, and Ryan made TCU his lock. We were all over on West Virginia, and Trey made that his lock. A lot of agreement here.
Yeah.
The last one we're all unanimous on was Kansas under
6 out of the
6.5.
10.
Rock
Yeah.
chalk.
Agreement.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a look at the tiers now. On our tier, we had Oklahoma. Still think, until proven otherwise, it's kind of like with Ohio State and Clemson, the ACC. You kind of just have to
Well, we did
put them on a tier by themselves.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Sorry, I thought we put Notre
No, we
Dame with
didn't.
them.
We put Notre Dame on the same tier as Clemson. It was a mistake. It was
Yeah,
a mistake.
Fair. Yeah.
We just didn't want to slice it too thinly, I think. We wanted
Yeah.
to have 4 tiers. But anyway, number 1 tier, Oklahoma. Number 2, Texas, Oklahoma State, Iowa State. Number 3 tier, West Virginia, Baylor, TCU, K-State, and Texas Tech. And the 4th tier, Kansas. What do you guys think about these tiers? Did you have to think about any of them, or?
I think the tiers themselves were pretty straightforward and simple especially compared to the ACC. But when you look forward to some of the other conferences as well, I think this will be about as easy as it comes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, what would you change here? It just doesn't. I can't come. I mean, what would you?
Aside from the order, maybe in some of them, but
Well, that's the thing. The tiers
the
fall
order.
into place perfectly, and it makes sense too, because on every tier you could, like those tiers 2 and 3, you could swap them up in any order. Like
Oh, yeah,
Texas
no
Tech
doubt.
is last on tier 3 of the 5 teams, they could easily end up the best of that tier.
Yeah, and like Texas, Oklahoma, and Iowa State was really, really, really hard for me to decide who was going to be second or fourth. I was essentially, I mean, almost flipping a coin. But if you told me that Iowa State, who was our fourth, if you told me they were going to be second, I would not be surprised whatsoever.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, let's go to our next segment here, and it is my turn to be on the hot seat.
Oh yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. All right. So taking into account the odds, who is the best bet for the Heisman in the conference?
So the main choices are Spencer Rattler 9-1, Sam Ellinger 12-1, and Chuba Hubbard at 20-1. And I just kind of threw out Chuba Hubbard because 9 of the past 10 winners are quarterbacks, and the only running back was for Alabama. So nothing against him. He's going to have a monster year, but I wasn't going to bet him. I'm going with Spencer Rattler. Before Baker Mayfield was coached by Lincoln Riley, he had one inefficient season at Texas Tech. Kyler Murray had one really inefficient season at A&M. And under Riley's tutelage, they both won the Heisman. So I think Riley can take a 5-star and make him pretty good in his system. So, yeah, I would take Rattler plus 900.
Yeah, can't argue against that one. All right, so Michael, which Big 12 head coach will be the next to leave or get fired?
This is very tough because, well, I guess it shouldn't be tough because Tom Herman is the only one that is on the hot seat. But I'm very high on Texas this year, and I love the way they've recruited. So I'm going to cautiously say that he's going to survive for the next several years. And I'll bet on Lincoln Riley and Matt Campbell not to leave for bigger jobs. So I'm gonna go bold here, just kind of make a random shot in the dark. I'll say Gary Patterson, after the 2021 season, is going to step down after 4 straight mediocre seasons.
Yeah, I could see it. All right. If you could add one player from a team not planning to play in the fall to a Big 12 team, who would you choose?
Okay, so OU and Texas, I think, already have enough talent to be legit playoff contenders. You could argue that for Oklahoma State as well, maybe a little bit more questionable, but I want my Cyclones to have that sort of upside. And I love the defense, love the quarterback, Brock Purdy, love the receiving core. I don't know about love, but I like the receiving core. I just want to bolster that offensive line. So give me Penei Sewell from Oregon at left tackle. And I think with him, they could legit become a dark horse playoff threat. Now, I know Penei Sewell is sitting out the season, but
yeah,
it's make-believe land.
That was
the
the
circumstances.
Yep. All right, Michael, who has the best name in the Big 12?
Okay, a lot of choices here. Charleston Rambo, wide receiver for OU, is pretty kicker, the kicker for Texas. But I'm going to go with Iowa State's kicker, who has a last name that is the intellectual's way of saying a bodily orifice. I'm going to go Connor Assalley.
Yep.
Nice.
Literally translates to, yeah,
exactly. Okay. Moving on from that, let's make our Big 12 championship picks. Who are you taking, Ryan?
I'm going pretty conventional here. Well, on as far as who's going to make it, I'm taking Oklahoma and Texas in the championship game. But I'm going to take the Longhorns to win it all. I think they can knock off OU finally.
Any particular reason?
No, not really. No, they returned so much, man. I love Ellinger. Senior year, senior leadership. They have this is the year for Texas. I'm banking on it. Like, they have so much coming back. Everything's kind of falling into place. It seems like it's taken forever for all the pieces to come into place. This is the time I'm going to go for it for Texas.
Okay. I mean, I almost went there because I think the gap is narrower between you this year than it has been for a while. But I went OU over Texas. Just boring pick. And I'm gonna make a specific prediction here. I'm gonna say Gabe Burkich, their kicker who was perfect last year. He's gonna hit a game-winning 38-yard field goal to win the Big 12 championship.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
I like it. All right. I really did think about Texas and even Iowa State, but
Yeah.
to and then potentially to knock off OU. But I'm just until they can prove it to me, I just got to say the Sooners are the top dog. So I also was OU Texas with OU winning.
I love Iowa State this year too. Obviously, I made them my overlock, but I guess I just really like Texas. And also the thing going against Iowa State, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but they're on the road against the other two tier 2 teams.
Oh,
So they're
yeah.
on the road against Oklahoma State and Texas. That's rough.
Yep.
Even if home field advantage is diminished this year a little bit.
Yep.
All righty. Is that it? Are we ready to move on to the questionable finish?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's do it. Matt Rule led Baylor to one of their best seasons of all time last year before leaving for the NFL. Name a time when you gave someone a tough act to follow.
This one's easy for me. I got to go back to the beginning of my life. I'd have to say at birth when you two were born after me. I mean, it's tough to follow in my footsteps.
Wow. I don't know about that.
Feel like I handled it very well. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna come right back at you, Trey, because Ryan, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but a few years ago we were golfing and on a par 3, I hit it, I think within like 10 feet. Pretty good shot, tough act to follow. But Ryan stepped right up and hit a hole in one.
Sure
Boom.
did. Sure did.
Boom.
Wow.
Trey, do you have a hole in one?
It's just like every episode, somehow the question ties.
When the questionable finish is back in the podcast, that's when it gets brought up.
Yeah,
Man. Yeah, I still don't have one, guys. Breaking news. Still don't have
That's
one.
too bad. It's too bad. I'm sure it'll happen sometime. All right. For me, it was last year when I was coaching. I had just a 3-point shooting contest with another coach. So we just did mano a mano, and you had to do. It was like kind of around the world, but you do 5 in each spot. So 5 in the corner, wing, top of the key,
like
wing,
the
corner.
3-point contest.
Right, exactly, just like that. And I made 24 out of the 25.
Holy
What?
And I went first. And so the guy behind me, the next coach after me was like, he didn't even try. Like, there's no
Like Larry Bird.
Not gonna work. Yeah, that was my. I was on fire that day.
Ryan can shoot.
Wow.
Feeling the heat, Tom Herman made changes at both offensive and defensive coordinator. What is the best offseason move that you made?
I canceled cable.
Ooh,
Saved $100 a month saving. I didn't lose any channels because we got Apple TV and have a hookup for some usernames. So
you got everything. You got CBS Sports, you got Big Ten Network, you got ACC Network, all that.
Maybe ACC Network. I am not positive on. Maybe I'll find that out shortly. But
Yeah, we might find it out this weekend.
It's been a while, but it was a good move during the off season for sure.
For me,
I haven't missed it at all yet. So,
all right, well, that's good. Adding a YouTube element to the podcast, just another way for people to find us, and it's actually not a ton of extra work for me. So
Good. We like that. Me, I guess with recent times, quarantine times, made me do like more legitimate workouts, not just kind of running or cardio, which I would kind of pretend to do, but still do. Doing different exercises, weights, different workouts. I mean, very little. We're not putting up big numbers here. We're just.
Well, it's not about the numbers.
It's just I never used to really do it, so now I've done it a little bit and just around the house.
Cool.
All right. Last one, give one bold prediction for the Big 12 that even you don't totally believe. And I'm going to go first here. And you know what? I think I kind of believe it. Texas is back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Last year, despite the record, 8-5 record, they were 15th in Sagarin. And that was with an inexperienced team. That was with a ton of injuries. This year, it's coming together. Tariq Black, 1,000 yards receiving. And Texas is back.
If you say it enough, it will happen.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm going to go even bolder. Brock Purdy is going to be the offensive player of the year.
Okay.
It's tough when you've got Oklahoma offense in the quarter in the conference, and then even like Sam Ehlinger. But I said it earlier. He had so much production last year, even with kind of a shaky offensive line. He has all of his favorite targets are pretty much back. He's got Breece Hall, the running back, to kind of help him. I just think Purdy's gonna have a big year.
Okay. Yeah, could happen. Mine was that I think West Virginia is going to finish above one of those teams in the tier 2. Well, they'll finish above
Whoa.
in the final rankings. Oklahoma State, Texas,
Oh
or
wow, that is Iowa State.
Iowa State. Yeah, West Virginia will jump one of those teams.
Wow.
Okay. West Virginia fans are going to like us this episode. We are definitely.
Have we had many interaction with the West Virginia fans? I haven't.
The Mountaineer wagon. Well, now we will.
True.
We have one that I know of that listens. What's up, Trav? Hope you enjoyed the episode.
Oh, that's right. Did we? I wonder if we gained any Baylor.
We have Chelsea. Chelsea's a West Virginia fan.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
There you go. All right. Anyway, thanks for listening to the College Football Bros podcast. Oh, let me turn off this music. Oh,
Take me home, West Virginia.
No, I don't have that. We'd probably have to pay money if we played that. But we're going to be back on Thursday morning to preview kind of a, not a full weekend of games, but a pretty good one. So we will talk to you then.
You've been listening to the College Football Bros. If you have any questions for the next podcast, email them to collegefootballbros@gmail.com. To keep up with the brothers on social media, like them on Facebook at College Football Bros, follow them on Instagram at College Football Bros, and for their commentary on Saturdays, follow them on Twitter at CFB Bros. Thanks for listening.